Today, we're going over my Poison Ice Shot and Acidic Concoction Pathfinder build. This build has some of the best AOE clear in the entire game due to the mechanics of Ice Shot and spreading poisons. It also has some of the best single target in the game with Acidic Concoction. Now keep in mind there does seem to be some unintended or bugged interactions with Acidic Concoction, allowing it to deal the damage that it's doing. Don't worry though, I've already done some testing and you can still kill pinnacle bosses relatively quickly with it, even if they do fix those issues. Ice Shot will be our main map clearing ability. It has two components to it. It shoots an arrow, and then when that arrow hits a target, it sprays a cone of ice shards, which fires 9 projectiles. Ice Shot is a great map clearing ability in its own right, but we pair it with a few support gems, an Ascendancy node, and some gear to really kick it up a notch. The first being the new support gem Nova Projectiles. This allows it to fire 4 additional projectiles. They fire in a circle, but supported skills deal 40% less damage. Then we have the Plague Finger Gloves. The important part about this is the all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude. This allows all of our elemental damage to contribute to the damage of the poisons that we're spreading. Ice Shot is mostly cold, and we're also stacking a good bit of lightning damage on gear. And then we pair this with a high chance 2 poison so that our Ice Shot is consistently poisoning enemies. And speaking of poisons, we have the Contagious Contamination Pathfinder Ascendancy node. This reads the most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. So that brings us to Bursting Plague. So this supports skills that can poison. It causes poisoned enemies to gain plague over time and explode in a plague burst on death. This does physical damage in a 1.8 meter radius. And this can poison, which in turn can then spread the poison from Bursting Plague onto enemies through the Ascendancy node. That just makes the poison proliferation that much crazier. Even though we're applying multiple poisons, we're really trying to make sure that the first poison that we apply to full life enemies deals a ton of damage. Poisons scale off of the hit that applied the poison. Now there are other ways to scale poison, like poison magnitude for example, but this allows us to scale the poison by critting the enemy. So first we're running the Ambush support gem. Supported skill has 100% more critical hit chance against enemies that are on full life. So effectively you can read this as whatever your crit chance is, double it against enemies that are on full life. We have a few passives that synergize with this. First Approach gives critical hit chance and damage against enemies on full life. Low Tolerance, 60% increased effective poison you inflict on targets that are not poisoned. Preemptive Strike gives 100% increased critical damage bonus against enemies that are on full life. And then we have the Kadiro's Gambit Quiver. Now when you're running pinnacle bosses, you definitely want to swap to a plus projectile, high damage, rare quiver. But I prefer Kadiro's Gambit for all map clearing, and you really don't need to change for map bosses for the most part as long as your damage is high enough. But I think this thing's pretty incredible on Ice Shot. So it is somewhat random, but you have so many projectiles from Ice Shot that it makes for a very consistent clear. So each arrow fired is one of 6 different kinds. So you have Crescendo. This chains 6 additional times and deals 60% increased damage for each time they've chained. So crazy clear and really good damage. You've got Splinter. Splintering arrows split towards 6 targets. Reversing. Reversing arrows pierce all targets and return to you. Diamonds are guaranteed crits with increased critical damage bonus. Covetous. Enemies killed with Covetous arrows drop items with 600% increased rarity. Now, keep in mind, there is some anti-synergy there with the Covetous arrows, because if the poison kills the enemy, it does not count. It has to be the arrow itself killing the enemy. And then Blunt Arrow increases stun buildup. Let's talk about Acidic Concoction. This is going to be our single target. So this reads, consumes charges from your mana flask to throw a flask that explodes, dealing physical damage in an area. The thrown flask consumes poison on hit to cause an acidic burst. So the acidic burst is what we're really concerned about here. Enemies lose life equal to 150% of the expected remaining damage of the consumed poison. So this is paired with Vine Arrow. Now Vine Arrow is going to drop plants on the ground. Those plants can be poisoned. You can then target those plants with Acidic Concoction. Now currently it is not consuming the poison from the Vine Arrow plant. So that's kind of what seems to be the big unintended effect that's going on right now with Acidic Concoction. And then we're also running Nova projectiles. Each projectile is dealing this loss of life. So if you can overlap the projectiles, it's really big damage. On top of that, you can typically only have one vine arrow out at a time, but with overabundance and the amulet, Idol of Uldurn, you can have 3 out. All right, I'm going to quickly demonstrate what this looks like in the hideout. So you drop your vine arrows, poison burst, and you can see that they're poisoned because they're glowing green. So that's your tell that they're poisoned. So vine arrows, poison burst, acidic concoction right on top. Now, normally with Nova projectiles, this is going to kind of throw these all around you in a pretty big spread. But if you put your cursor right at your character's feet, it'll just overlap all 5 projectiles just like that. Now, let's say that they do change Vine Arrow and make it so that the poison is being consumed. One other option that we have is to run Gas Arrow. So Gas Arrow will put a ground surface down that has a duration and will continuously poison. So even if you are consuming the poison off of the Vine Arrow, the poison should be immediately reapplied to the Vine Arrow plant, and then you can keep spamming your acidic concoction. So real quick, how that would look. Put a few of these down. Put your Vine Arrow, and then again, just go back to spamming. Next up, let's take a closer look at the abilities and support gems. So for Ice Shot, we have Bursting Plague, Nova Projectiles, Ambush, Pinpoint Critical for more critical hit chance, and then Elemental Armament for more elemental attack damage. For Acidic Concoction, since the Acidic Burst is not scalable, we're trying to increase the projectiles, increase the attack speed, and the area. So we have Rapid Attacks, Rigwald's Ferocity for even more attack speed, Projectile Acceleration, Magnified Area, and then of course Nova Projectiles. For Vine Arrow, we have Overabundance to increase the limit by 1, Multi-Shot, so you shoot 2 arrows up into the air, dropping 2 plants. Now Multi-Shot will increase the spread, so the plants won't be right next to each other. So we run Concentrated Area to actually reduce the area of effect, to reduce the spread. Prolonged Duration for more skill effect duration. And then the last link isn't really that necessary. I just have Swift Affliction on here for the Vine Arrow plant itself to deal a little bit more damage. Not really relevant. You really just need a 5 link. Next up, we have Poison Burst Arrow. Now, of course, this is used in the single target rotation, but I also use it pretty often against rares while mapping. So we have Deadly Poison to increase the poison magnitude, Deliberation, Prolonged Duration, because skill effect duration actually does scale Poison Burst Arrow, Lightning Attunement, and then Concentrated Area. Now, if you don't like the less area of effect from Concentrated Area, you could run Close Combat, but then at that point, to get the full damage, you do need to be right near the enemy. Which for Pinnacle bosses is fine. You're going to be near the enemy for your Acidic Concoction anyways, but you may not want to do that while mapping against rares. We're running Energy Shield Evasion Hybrid for defenses. So we're running Wind Dancer, which grants stages of a buff that gives more evasion rating per stage. And then also if you do get hit, you consume all stages to damage and knock back enemies. This is a melee attack ability, which gives us access to supports like Rage 3 and Life Leech 3. I'm also running Blind as well. You can run whatever utility supports you see fit. We also have Ghost Dance. So while this is active, you periodically gain Ghost Shrouds. If you're hit while you have a Ghost Shroud, it is immediately consumed to recover Energy Shield based on your evasion. And then we're running Compressed Duration as a support so that we gain the Ghost Shrouds more quickly. Another Spirit Gem that we're running is Berserk. This grants increased rage effect. Now, the way that we are generating rage is by the Blood of Rage passive. This reads, gain 8 rage when you use a life flask. Now, normally rage decays extremely quickly, but this is paired with the Blood of the Warrior life flask. This reads, no inherent loss of rage during the effect of the flask. And the flask effect is over 7 seconds, and it consumes 10 of 75 charges on use. This makes it very easy to keep max rage up all the time. Now, Berserk does make you lose 0.1% of your maximum life per rage per second while not losing rage. While mapping, we will be gaining life on killing a poisoned enemy, so this pretty much takes care of that no problem. But when we get to a boss room, we're going to drop Toxic Domain. This creates an area of toxic bloom on the ground around you. And the only reason why this is in the build is because you regenerate life per second while standing in the toxic bloom. I didn't really see any other good way to add life regeneration into the build, but this basically takes care of all of the loss of life from Berserk during boss encounters. We also have prolonged duration here, so the toxic bloom lasts longer, and then magnified area, so it has increased area of effect. Our last spirit gem will be the Roa mount. So while you're riding the Roa, you get 15% increased movement speed while mounted, and then 80% reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while mounted. And you are able to use all of your bow skills while mounted. Keep in mind, Acidic Concoction is an unarmed skill, so it cannot be used while riding the Roa. This is paired with Brutus Brain, so that the Roa cannot be damaged if you are off the Roa. We're also running Loyalty. For the last gem slot, you have some options. So you can just go ahead and run Gas Arrow, which is what I currently have equipped. That's me kind of just expecting Vine Arrow to be fixed. If you have enough Spirit, which you would need to get some on your chest piece, which I don't currently have, you could run Withering Presence. Stormcaller Arrow is an option potentially for easy shock application. And then you also have Despair, which is a curse that reduces chaos resistance. Next up, let's take a look at the gear. Now here's a quick still of all of my current gear. I'm going to leave this up for a few so you guys can reference this and come back to it if you need to. And then we'll go over all of the gear individually. Alright, so for the gear, you want a crit chance bow. I've got one with physical damage and lightning damage. You can also have different combinations of damage on here, including just a really high physical damage bow. And then again for the quiver, Kadira's Gambit we've already discussed. You're looking for a high evasion rating energy shield helmet. Ideally you would have crit chance on here. And then get whatever stats and resistances you need. For the chest piece, you're looking for again a high evasion rating, high energy shield chest piece. And then again with some resistances. Boots, you want high movement speed, resists, and then as much evasion rating and energy shield as you can get. For the gloves, the Plague Finger we've already discussed. Again, this is mainly just for the all damage from hits contributes to poison magnitude. It does also have a very high chance to poison on hit, which helps us get to 100% chance to poison or close to 100% chance on Ice Shot. So for the belt, I'm currently running Darkness Enthroned with magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict. Runes socketed, so we're getting a 54% increased to that. Now, there's a lot of options for belts. You could run an Ingenuity. You can run the Chevron Satchel with the Enduring Elixirs Ascendancy node for Pathfinder to become extremely tanky if you wanted to go that route. But ideally, the best thing to get, just like pretty much any build, is a Headhunter. Headhunter is going to be the best. If you've already got one or you have the means to get one, just run Headhunter. For rings, you're looking for high damage, and then fill out your resistances. You can get some life, and then you can also go for rarity here as well, along with all attributes. Just kind of depends on what your personal character needs. For the amulet, I'm currently running a more of a defensive amulet with spirit. Also getting some all attributes, some resistances. You really do want plus to projectiles here if you can get it. They're very expensive, especially getting good ones. That's going to increase your damage by a good bit. Then I've got some rarity as well. This is how we're getting Blood of Rage. We are allocating this to the amulet because it's pretty far to path over to this to get our rage generation. And then on pinnacle bosses, if you want to make a swap to Idol of Uldurn, you can. This is going to increase the limit of our Vine Arrow by 1, so we can have 3 of these out. And then you can also swap to a high damage quiver with plus to projectiles for single target. For the Ascendancy, of course, we're running Acidic Concoction. We've got Contagious Contamination for the poison spread. And then I am currently running Overwhelming Toxicity to double the amount of poisons that enemies can be affected by. This is not mandatory, so it could be swapped out. Again, like I said, the main thing is we want to make sure that first poison that hits enemies is dealing a ton of damage, but I like the additional poisons. And then really the MVP of the Ascendancy nodes for Pathfinder is going to be Relentless Pursuit. Your speed is unaffected by slows. This means that you can ignore Temporal Chains, you can ignore Chilled Ground, which are the 2 most annoying map mods there are, and there's a ton of slows that happen in the Abyss So this is just really, really good overall for mapping. There's potential to drop the Roa and run Running Assault for less movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. And then, of course, you also have Traveler's Wisdom, which grants us additional skill points for the passive tree. And then, like I said, with that Chevron's belt, you could run Enduring Elixirs. Now, keep in mind, if you go that route, you're not going to be able to run the tech that I'm currently using to generate rage. You'd have to use a normal life flask for this to work, because the Blood of the Warrior life flask that I'm using doesn't really have normal life recovery from a flask. It has life recoup instead. So for the rest of the passive tree, we have 2 weapon sets. One is going to be for our bow and quiver, and one is for unarmed for Acidic Concoction. So for the bow and quiver, we're looking to stack poison nodes. So you're getting pretty much all of the poison nodes on the tree close to it. There are some down here that we're not pathing to. Where are they at? Right here. But we're not going to path down there currently. And then you're also looking to get as much crit as you can. So you've got crit here to Moment of Truth. This is where Preemptive Strike is at. You've got this crit down here, and then crit up here as well. And then you're also looking to get Evasion and Energy Shield nodes. And then on the weapon set for Acidic Concoction, you're going to grab really just more defenses, and then some of the flask nodes, like Combat Alchemy and Savoring. Now, a couple jewels that I'm running, I do have a Time Lost Sapphire here. It's a really good spot for it. It hits a bunch of passives through here with the crit, and then a couple up here with the poison. And then I'm also running a Heart of the Will, which is giving some energy shield from equipped body armor, damages extra chaos damage, and this is giving us 1% of maximum mana on kill. And then we also have a From Nothing. It's allowing us to allocate passives around Chaos Inoculation, which is going to be up here. So with this, we're able to get Pure Chaos, Wither Away, and then we're currently running Stun Ailment Threshold from Energy Shield. Now, the one nice thing about this is this allows you to pretty much not get knocked off your Roa. If you're still having issues with that, you could try just running a Basement, which gives you even more Stun Threshold from Energy Shield, but then you wouldn't be getting the Ailment Threshold as well. Another point that you can go ahead and grab here would be Harsh Winter. This gives you increased skill effect duration, which in turn is going to increase the damage of Poison Burst Arrow. Now, one last thing to keep in mind about this passive tree is you could set this up for more single target damage for Poison Burst Arrow. It's not needed for any mapping. You'll destroy the bosses in maps, no problem. But if you wanted to like really min-max your single target damage, you would set the tree up a bit differently if you're doing max level pinnacle bosses. So I think that'll about wrap it up, guys. Overall, this is a highly enjoyable build, one of my favorites that I've ever played in Path of Exile 2, and it can only get better with things like Headhunter and more increased movement speed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.